Hey everybody, welcome back to BobkeTV. Stage 4, individual time trial, one of the pivotal stages of this year's Pyrenees in the books. If we look back at my prophecy, the man I said who would win overall took a huge step forward, Wouter Poels. Dominant performance in the individual time trial. Luis Leon Sanchez, also a good ride to keep his jersey, but by just 15 seconds over Wout Poels. Julian Alaphilippe, also a good ride to move into third. And he's tied with Marc Soler in the overall standing. So the young Spaniard, Marc Soler, had a great ride also. He's tied. They're both looking for the podium. And that's going to change a little bit, I think. And I predicted Poels for the win, now on the podium with TJ Van Garderen because of today's stage. TJ crashing out on stage number 1, so I'm going to revise my predictions a little bit, if you don't mind. Alaphilippe onto the podium with Poels and now. I think that Luis Leon Sanchez is going to have a hard time keeping the leader's jersey. Tomorrow he should keep it. He's got a very solid team here. You got Fuglsang and Michael Valgren and Gruzdev. So Astana looking pretty good so far in Paris-Nice. But I think that the Sky Riders will be much stronger in very difficult climbing stages to come. The time trial doesn't suit Alaphilippe that well, but he did a good ride to keep himself near the top of the leaderboard. The following stages really suit Julian Alaphilippe, and I think he will give Team Sky the most to worry about and the toughest competition. So Alaphilippe not out of it for the win, but Wout Poels look really strong in the time trial. And if he's time trialing that well, he will probably be climbing very well also. Some disappointments, Tony Gallopin especially, the GC man for the AG2R squad, had a very tough day, moves down the standings quite a ways. The Izagirre brothers, I thought they might be a little bit stronger from the Bahrain team. Decent still in the top 10. Tim Wellens, he had a good ride, not noted as a time trialist, which is an interesting part of today's stage in Paris-Nice. A lot of great climbers, but I had to search the roster of participants high and low for somebody that's proficient in the time trialing discipline, and there aren't any. Luis Leon Sanchez, historically maybe the strongest, and he had a decent ride, like I said, to keep the yellow jersey. So it was just a question of which climber would be the strongest time trialist, and that turned out to be Wout Poels, which I thought, based on historical data searches of the time trial discipline, and riders like Vincenzo Nibali and Chris Froome, who are great climbers who can time trial well. That shows you how strong the Grand Tour overall contenders are. And Tom Dumoulin, also another good example of that, lest I forget, and shows you how big of a difference the time trials can make. And so the pure climbers oftentimes have a tough go of it at the Grand Tours if they can't time trial. So the best in the Grand Tours, it shows you just how special they are. But Wouter Poels, I think, would love to include his name in that group of riders, and depending on what happens politically to Team Sky, and that is, I'm referring to, of course, the Chris Froome salbutamol case that's ongoing, and Poels, if Chris Froome is still racing come July, will be theoretically the support rider for Chris Froome. But if Chris Froome is not in the Tour this July, whether his case has been adjudicated or not, I want you to write in about this if you feel strongly about it. Should the Tour de France allow Chris Froome to race if his salbutamol case has not yet been decided? That's a big question. The rules stipulate that he's free to race, but will the Tour de France allow that? And should they allow that? Please write in. Just keep the language clean. But Wout Poels demonstrating today, if he was on any other team, he would be the man for the Tour de France, for nearly any other team. And that's one of the tactics that Team Sky has used with their huge budget to buy some of the best riders. Kwiatkowski, Sergio Henao, Mikel Landa, although he's changed teams, Geraint Thomas, Wout Poels. Those guys would lead almost any other team in the peloton in the Grand Tours. All of that might backfire on Team Sky, though, and we'll see what happens. A lot of movement, a lot of players in action, and the landscape just in constant change. And there's been a lot of other headlines generated by Team Sky recently, and hopefully we'll get to all of those on the next edition of the Broom Wagon. But for now, Luis Leon Sanchez is leading with a good ride in the TT, but Wouter Poels is breathing right down his neck. I recommend watching the rest of Paris-Nice. It's going to be a great stage race. Tomorrow, for the breakaways perhaps, Astana looking pretty solid, but after tomorrow, I think Luis Leon Sanchez is going to have a tough time holding the jersey. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Until next time.